Hello and welcome everybody to Get Good NA Console. We're in week 5, round 5. We're going to be tuning in with Marauders versus 50 Shades for your casting entertainment today. I'm going to be Sir Waltham, joined by Man of Class. Man of Class, how are we feeling today?
I think we're feeling pretty good. Obviously, PlayStation going on here week 5, and a console, like you said. And while sometimes console might feel like a free for all, both these teams have obviously already played quite a while together now. At least these last four weeks, because we're in week 5 now. And these consistency things are usually something that are going to play up. Are these teams going to be able to keep up their performance that they've been having in the last few weeks? Are some mistakes going to fall through the cracks? Are the same things going to be coming back to haunt them? And then you can look at all these things like ult economy. Are you layering support ultimates? Are your comms clear? Do they seem to be having target focus? And it's all these small details that, yes, they belong to like core competitive Overwatch, but the consistency in those really show how well of a team unit you are.
Yeah, I certainly agree incredibly with that statement. And really, when you mentioned showing what kind of a team you are, that's going to be incredibly important here because, as far as at least I'm concerned, we have very little information on these teams.
Yeah, exactly. And not having information on teams is usually a good thing because all you can really hope for in that case is how much of the expected potential, because we're expecting something from these teams. How much of that can they show? How much of that can they give us something that we maybe have not seen before? And it's all that exciting potential that could come out here. And I hope will come out. I'm sure one of these teams at least will show that, but hopefully both. That's always the dream.
Yeah, and it's nice that we're going to be starting off on a control point map. We're going to be starting off on Nepal. The control point map's a little bit more brawly. It's a little bit more what is often called the deathmatch style game mode. So I think this is kind of a nice introduction to get a real feel for these teams, at least in terms of just mechanical and fragging potential.
And I think of all these points, well, getting Shrine first, which feels like the most open, like disconnected, brawly type of point that these three have, whereas the other 2 points more have some sort of geometry map elements going on that will split off one of the teams or split off parts of the team. I think this is really the one where you can see the full 6v6 happen a lot of the time. And looking at what they're pulling up so far in Spawn, I mean, this will be a heavy, chaotic fight if this is what they're actually going to play.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you say Junkrat, whenever you see things like Doomfist, I always expect things to get a little bit out of order, a little bit discombobulated, if you will. A lot of high burst damage potential coming in from these teams.
Round 1, capture the objective.
Yeah, I'm sure I would agree with you. I couldn't quite understand what you were saying half the time there, but that's okay. We are going in here with a fairly quick point take, of course, from the blue team here.
Yeah, it looks like Marauders are going to be that first team on point here. And now it's going to be on the 50 Shades to really push in here, get aggressive. Both Ryan's just kind of trying to, I guess, show up one another, but a big charge coming in from Jordy Gord, really trying to buy that space and perhaps get an early pick, but the pick is actually going to come in from past the Glizzy and trying to go for that Mercy, but the focus fire doesn't seem to be there. Instead, he tries to turn around onto McCree. Mercy does get away, but the kill's now surely in favor of 50 Shades, and they're looking good to take this point. They didn't have it at first, but they managed to turn it around.
Yeah, and you don't have to take that first point control to win the fight. They didn't even have to let it flip, but past the Glizzy going down there fairly early, so this is a good re-engage. Don't have to worry about that Doomfist, and that's as a result they will actually go in fairly quickly as well.
Yeah, Jordy Gord gonna be trying it for the Earthshatter. Gets it, doesn't have the reinforcements to really put down that damage. In fact, first 2 kills gonna be coming in for the side of Marauders, and it's looking a little bit like a checkerboard pattern as we see both sides kind of going back and forth onto these kills. This Reinhardt just trying to buy time, buy their team a little bit of space, and it looks like the kills are going to close in favor of Marauders.
Yeah, unfortunately, that Shatter is not getting the follow that it needed. It felt like a sort of an attempt to buy time for past the Glizzy to come back, but eventually that time was not bought enough on their side. Now we look at the ultimates here. Support ultimates will not be online for anybody. BT bench is close, so that might be a very big difference maker, but they have to stop a lot of firepower on the other side. Both DPS and tank ultimates ready.
Yeah, and Ed Powell might be looking for this tire once the fight really gets engaged here to take 50 Shades down a man early into this. But it looks like the Earth Shatter is going to be coming out from Unit Saber, gets taken down after the Shatter, so not a whole lot of blows coming in from that. And as we look forward, this fight, again, looking pretty back and forth. Silent Scream does get up the Reinhardt at the exchange of a Junkrat. Another Earth Shatter coming in, but as we've seen kind of be the theme here, it doesn't seem like a whole lot of immediate follow-up on those Earth Shatters. The Coalescence and Soundberry are going to be invested to counteract the beat from Nick. And just trying to get the kills, it looks like 50 Shades finally going to be able to repel the side of Marauders for at least a little bit. That's Zarya deciding that perhaps it's better to back away than to take this fight too aggressively.
Yeah, it does seem that that support ultimate combo was just more powerful coming out on the side of 50 Shades. We will have that Valkyrie still ready and still both DPS ultimates on the side of the Marauders here, but that grab of I am Lono could probably shut everything down before it even gets started. It's really up to Powell to stay hidden and get that tire off in a good position.
Yeah, Powell did not use that tire last time, so let's see if they initiate with it this time. They're already stuck in the grab, however, gets the double off the back end. Archangel does with that high noon, and it looks like another quick clean up this time for 50 Shades, although they do take their legs.
Yeah, so you get a little bit of counter kill there, so maybe you can get a quick re-engage, but the problem is that you don't have that Lucio, so BTB bench can just go back to spawn, taxi back that Zarya if they want to. In the meantime, they still haven't used the tire, still haven't used the high noon. I think in the meantime, Archangel's actually used 2 high noons already. So you got to start seeing these ultimates come out. At some point, you got to just use them and hope you get something. It might just be zoning, but it could be enough. Good charge there on the Jordy, though.
Yeah, a good counter pin coming in. It's going to be the close that really helps Marauders win on this frontline battle, especially with that Doomfist going down. Now we see Marauders getting a little bit more gung-ho with it. Rabbit Panda still has that high noon, taking the duel with Archangel. Gonna be winning it, and with that, Marauders flip it over at the 99.
Marauders finally get that fight they're hoping for, and they don't actually have to use the DPS ultimates. They're still online. They'll have their tank ultimates as well with the Coalescence, so not really anything missing there aside from that Valkyrie. And there's not that much coming in from the other side. Last time they were saved from the Graviton by the sound barrier, but that's not going to happen this time. Powell sees them coming with the trap. The tire comes out.
And he gets for a big tire coming in. Powell just instantly winning that team fight. Nobody going to be able to push.
No one ever going to be able to push. I think they will make it back because they have the Lucio and they have a little bit of time. Usually the 86 mark is where you start getting hairy. They should be able to make it. Might be a bit rushed and hastily, though.
Yeah, still a lot of ults on the side of Marauders. We're going to see if they can use it to high effect here. The high noon coming out. No grind to shield them now. The Doomfist almost landing onto that McCree, but a Rabbit Panda one step ahead of them. Grab goes out. Doesn't seem to find much. However, it looks like numbers advantage still on the side of Marauders here. The pin coming in going to actually be landing onto that Moira. Crucial that there's not going to be that healing coming in, but numbers already looking slim for 50 Shades. As soon as they get cleaned up, this overtime is going to start to tick down at Reinhardt and Lucio are just trying their best. Not for long in this world, however. Overtime's going to tick down, and first map is going to go over to Marauders.
First point of Nepal, it was closely contested, but in the end it did feel like the ultimate economy finally got on top for the Marauders here. 50 Shades, I think they did a very good job of playing aggressive. I think if they can dictate the pace of a fight and are not forced into a certain rhythm, they have an edge here against Marauders. They certainly seem to be more willing to cycle through their ultimates, use those DPS ults, use the tank ults, support ults. And if they can force Marauders into a position where they're never able to initiate, where they're never able to dictate the pace of the fight, dictate the pace of when they are allowed to use ultimates really, then the setup for 50 Shades seems to be more prevalent.
We'll have to see if that plays out as we do move in here. Both teams going to be rolling out. The Hog coming out from Jordy, going to be a little bit of a contrast from Nick's Sigma. We'll see if they're going to be looking for any of those environmental kills going on. Is that the positioning from Marauders probably going to have to be a bit sharp, but Archangel slap taken right out of the sky. No more Pharah in the game. Lucio does get hooked, but not punished. No follow-up from the team for the Hog. And the Immortality Field forced out early for the side of 50 Shades. This is not great, and Nick actually gets, I believe that was an accretion kill into the pit on the Jordy Gord. That's not what the Hog was looking for.
No, I think they got the pull off already from Unit Saber, and the accretion was just the icing on the cake. They will chase them out as well. Get some stranglers in Name Too Hard for You. It's actually not that hard to pronounce. You know, that's how that goes. But hey, can blame man for trying. We'll see, of course, the re-engage come out here to change Archangel over to the Mei now. They want to be at a distance there. But they're going to have to walk into all this Junkrat spam, and it's so hard to get through that sometimes.
Yeah, additionally, Jordy's going to have a hard time at landing at this hook, as we saw that hook tried to come through, but the Sigma Shield was there in immediacy. Ed Powell gets dropped before they have the opportunity to use that tire, so now it looks like 50 Shades going to be able to push through a little bit more aggressively. At least that's what I would be saying if Ed Powell hadn't been brought right back up. Has that tire up, doesn't look like they're going to be using it. We've seen Ed Powell be pretty conservative with their ultimates here.
There it is.
As I say, it's going to be ripping and tearing at least, and not as the Baptiste has anything to say about it. Gets taken down, but it looks like it was enough distraction to still allow this fight to be firmly held by Marauders.
Yeah, and eventually it's Ed Powell in that corner, not threatened by anybody. No one dares to come close. And at this point, you gotta kind of commit your whole team resources to it. Everyone attack the Junkrat together, because it's not like Powell is playing completely with their team. They're usually off on one side, going for the off angle.
Yeah, now as we look forward, this entire team of the side of Marauders trying to just hold up in this small room, really making it difficult. But Archangel going to be trying to chase that Mercy out, but Powell throwing himself into the pit with a mine. A lot of environmental kills coming through right about now. Supercharger coming out in companionship with Bob, who gets taken down rather quickly. Poor Bob, he hardly knew ye. But again, another fall kill. It looks like Jordy Gord going to be taking themselves out perhaps with some of those left clicks or the accretion. And it's just going to be a lone Hanzo on point. Archangel trying to get that damage and trying to make something happen with those kills. Can't seem to find it. Marauders looking so good for this fight as well. The sound barrier just to sure it up, make sure that they can take this fight nice and neat. Arrive at Panda going to certainly be doing their part as well. And Jordy Gord on the Sigma just trying their best, but the best is not going to be good enough. Marauders are going to take the second sub-map here.
Yeah, Marauders being able to withstand 50 Shades aggression, and they were exactly in the place they wanted to be. As soon as they take control of that point, they can have Ed Powell just spamming grenades constantly. They can have a Rabid Panda just in the back line, shooting at them, throwing dynamites at them. It's great. Like, I honestly really like the way they're playing that. The only issue they have is when they have to retake a point, when they have to be on the offensive rather than on the defensive. So when we go into these next map types where being on the offensive and being on the defensive is completely 50-50, both teams get an equal chance, I'm very curious to see how that dynamic is going to go, where 50 Shades, they like to play aggressive, and they can actually withstand an attack of Marauders who are just a bit better at defending at this point. That could get up to an interesting dynamic where both of the teams have a opposite reaction, right? Where Marauders cannot attack and 50 Shades, also cannot attack because the defense is too good. So yeah, it's really going to come up to the details there and to the execution. And so far, it's really been up to Ed Powell just doing way too much of the Junkrat. It's so hard to dislodge that guy. And that's what 50 Shades has to focus on. How do we deal with the Junkrat? Maybe they just have to mirror it. Who knows?
Yeah, I want to ask you something as we look towards 50 Shades, since they're probably going to have to be the ones that need to make the change here to start getting some advantage. Do you think that the Hog Ori was a detriment or a benefit to them, despite or causing that loss on that second map?
I don't think the tank line is necessarily the problem. Of course, you do have a little bit less shielding going into that Junkrat with only Orisa shield. But generally speaking, having fewer shields is not something that should necessarily lose you a game. We know how good shields are. We know how much utility they provide you. But in the end, if you don't use them correctly, you might as well not have them at all. So whereas I do think that they used the shield correctly, the one that they had, and I think the Hog could have really worked. It's just that they could have sent the Hog sort of separate from the Orisa, be more of a solo thing that goes after the Junkrat or after the Ashe, because it's so hard to kill that Hog as a lone DPS. But instead, they chose to ball up as this unit that never really got on top of anybody. And I think that is where that composition mostly falls. So it's more the execution than the heroes, I feel like.
Certainly makes sense. We did see the Junkrat playing out of their team quite a bit. We'll have to see if that trend continues here, as we're going to be heading into 66.
Yeah, and of course, in Route 66, it's still possible to play Junkrat. It gets a bit harder on the later stages of the map, even in the first stage, if you're not able to hold on in a very close, more proximity type of situation. So we'll see if they stick with that. Maybe they choose to go with something like an Echo, a Pharah, maybe even a Genji, because it's been really good lately. But, Ed Powell was doing really well in the Junkrat, so I wouldn't be surprised if they stick with it. Of course, they do get to start on the defense here, on the side of the Marauders. Which is I would say it's an advantage to them. It's advantageous to start on the defense because I feel like defense will be their stronger side of the two. So if they can hold them closer, that means they don't have to push as far, and that will give them a bit more comfort. So starting on the defense is definitely the move for them. But then again, on the other side, I feel like 50 Shades wants to start on attack a lot of the time as well. So this is really going to be interesting to see where they go with this and how they will actually pull out their power.
Yeah, the age-old question, I suppose you could say, of an immovable or an unstoppable force and an immovable object, which we'll see whether offense or defense comes out stronger here as these gates do open up. Looks like a Ryan Zarya composition coming out from
double sniper.
Double sniper, but a Rabid Panda going to be making that a one sniper composition as they take down the Archangel in that. This Ashe playing real close with their team, almost taking down past the Glizzy as well. And already it's looking rough for 50 Shades, that Ryan being put under such incredible pressure in this tunnel. That's not where you want to be against the Junkrat, allowing them to funnel those kills in. And now they're starting to make some progress on the point, but a deep pin coming in from Jordy. It looks like it was either Immortality fielded out or the charge was just short. But either way, Jordy going to be paying the price there. It does drive back the team of Marauders, but it might not be enough for the attacking team.
I love it when Reinhardt's do that. And you know that Jordy was screaming, "Guys, I got him! I got the Junkrat!" But it didn't quite work out that way, unfortunately. It's very close to getting it, but both the Immortality field and everything. But there we go. They get him. There's still a resurrection, so it will be res, but that's one time that you kill the Junkrat that cannot be res anymore in the next 30 seconds. And they're actually getting some ground here.
Yeah, we're seeing this Ryan take this corner, however. A Rabid Panda on this high ground. Gonna be Reinhardt actually got shielded off, not able to get that defense going through, not able to get the shatter off, rather. Jordy gonna already be about 60% to building their next one, but these snipers on the high ground. A Rabid Panda wins it out, which means they have this high ground pretty much uncontested, able to rain down the pain onto the cart, build up that Bob. Already raring to go, but it looks like the rest of their team couldn't have been saved. It's just going to be that Ashe and Mercy trying to hold themselves out.
They do a lot of damage though, especially with that Bob. Like you said, Bob goes down. They will even get Jordy, because Jordy tries to go up there alone as the Reinhardt. Right now though, they've switched over to this Ana. I think the Ana's nice. I think they want to supercharge something in the front line in order to scare off the defense, and it was working for a while.
Yeah, and a Rabid Panda playing incredibly well just off the back of this positioning. The grab does come out, but I Am Lano not able to find much with it. Again, follow-up when it comes to these tank ultimates has not been there throughout these series so far. The res will bring Ed Powell back into the game on the Reaper, not the Junkrat this time around. Archangel getting forced out, but the tank there to bail them. Jordy now might be looking for this next Earth Shatter.
Ed Powell does feel like the sacrificial lamb they just send into the slaughter. Oh, there's going to be flank shatter. Jordy's going to do it. He's ready for it. They've seen him, but he still gets the Sigma and the Reaper on the ground.
Ooh, but he gets taken down. I believe that was a mid-charge once again. Jordy going for those really aggressive charges.
Aggressive plays, but the follow wasn't there. If the team had been ready around the corner to follow up on that shatter, it would have gotten at least Ed Powell, maybe more. Eventually still get the Reaper, but that might not have been able to mean the death of Jordy in that case.
Once again, we're seeing the Widow Ashe take a battle on this high ground. Archangel versus a Rabid Panda. Who's going to win? The winner here really looking like it's going to be the Ana. BT Bench getting a sleep onto Nick, stopping that grab Flux, allowing that tunnel a little bit more safe passage. And now the attacking team has some momentum here. They're really taking advantage of the cover, although Ed Powell taking advantage of the fact that Reaper can just barrel stuff to that Reinhardt with those Hellfire shotguns. Not going to be enough though. 50 Shades starting to pull these kills back and starting to make it look so favorable for them.
I passed the Glizzy, finally found the hero they can do work with, and it's called Junkrat. So many spam mines, so many nades coming out of there. And the really pivotal play in that whole fight is that Archangel finally gets the kill on that Rabbit Panda. Finally, the high ground's clear. No more dynamite spam. No more, oh, we have to look at the high ground to don't dodge those shots. Just focus on the ground. And that's where they've been winning. They've been winning these tank battles, these heads up, just 6v6 battles. But every single time there's that off angle here again, the Rabbit Panda is just reigning supreme.
Yeah, really did not like that early peek from Archangel. Might have been trying to get some early picks as this cart does roll through, but it's going to cost them their life. And now with that Widow not really able to capitalize, you see Edpal creeping around, ready to drop that Death Blossom in the backline. Waits out, drops it, but the Transcendence perfectly timed. Name's too hard for you, actually going to be responding in perfect fashion.
Whoa. The
Riptire gets 3, and with that pass to Glizzy, turn this fight around. DPS for DPS, but it's going to be 50 Shades paying off in spades.
Very nicely done from Pasta Glizzy, giving them kind of a taste of their own medicine, you know? They're saying, you know what, the Powell, you might have to go back on that Junkrat, otherwise I'm going to out-frag you. And I don't know, I feel like Jordy and BT Bench as well, I think that they're kind of missing this one thing, because Nick did a very good job of A, blocking the Shatter, but then keeping the barrier up, and that meant that Jordy just couldn't be healed. And then Jordy's like, oh, I can keep swinging because I might get a Nano or like a nade or something, but they couldn't because it was shield.
Yeah, Bob gonna be thrown in. Looks like it was trying to contest the cart, but Bob goes right into the propane store. Takes a little bit of a nap while they're there, and past the Glizzy, once again getting the early advantage. Does get taken down by that Ashe, but even in death, they continue killing. Nobody's contesting cart. Unit Saver pretty much just letting the cart meander onto point, and now Rabbit Panda stuck alone.
But that's really what the composition of Marauders feels like right now. They don't want to fight up close. They want to fight at range, mid-range, maybe even get high ground advantage. But that does mean this point presence from Jordy and I'm Lono is just so much stronger. And then you have past the Glizzy to just bomb anyone that dares to go close, and Archangel at range as well. It's just a great combo right now.
It really is. Now we're seeing Archangel on that high ground. Past the Glizzy proving not to be the more dominant Junkrat in this exchange. And Nick, with the Sigma, just able to throw those orbs down from on high. It looks like it's going to be enough to force back the DPS and the supports, more importantly, get those kills. And with this now, it looks like 50 Shades on the back foot, and that Reinhardt's going to fall for it.
Yeah, and you kind of could feel that coming, right? As soon as they get to this more enclosed area, without a lot of high ground, without a lot of off angles, that's where you throw in the Junkrat again. So Ed Powell's going to go with that duel. Pasta Glizzy is a lot closer to his Riptire, but that can change really quickly if they die early. There's so many ultimates online from both teams, though. This could be a slobber knocker of a fight.
Yeah, we're going to see, might be looking for the Transcendence to initiate the Earth Shatter coming out, but Jordy once again using the Earth Shatter and falling right after or during it. You hate to see that from your tank player. A lot of ults invested from the side of 50 Shades to get basically nothing. Unit Saber's gonna fall, but the res comes through rather quickly from Silent Scream, and Nick's gonna be able to buy that space with the Sigma. And now, if things haven't gone from bad to worse, they will as Ed Powell drops the tire.
I don't think they needed that tire, but it's nice to create that that end of the fight moment where you say like this, it's over. And now there will be a minute left. There'll be 4 ultimates online, of which one is Infrasight, which can help, but doesn't really do much against a comp like this, where they're just heads first fighting you. And on the other side, there will be that Bob and that Mercy again, that Mercy Valkyrie. And Silent Scream has been very, very hard to deal with in combination with... Ooh, the tire though! Gets the Ashe!
Ooh, and a Rabbit Panda can be a crucial kill. It looks like the res not going to be coming in from Silent Scream just yet.
They're camping that body.
Yeah, Pasta Glizzy being real diligent here. And Silent Scream actually chases Pasta Glizzy with that Mercy into an enclosed space. Just gets one comboed by it. And with that, it's looking like the attackers in a very strong spot. I Am Lano going to be backing up their Reinhardt, and now Archangel has this dominant positioning, taking down TNA. And with this, it's looking so rough and questionable for Marauders. Bob's going to be trying to get out onto point, but Archangel focusing down that Sniper and Mercy. But the rest of the team pushing up with them as well. However, looks like the kills might have just started coming through for the side of Marauders. They've managed to take down 2, but will it be enough? They just have to wait out for those respawns. If the respawns can get here, then they're going to be sitting in a pretty good spot. A lot of members pretty low for the attacking team of 50 Shades. Can they make it happen? The pin tries to come in from Jordy, but not a lot lands onto it. Gonna be Nick taking a nap, but nobody deciding to wake him up for the attackers, letting him get his Z's in here shortly. And Marauders absolutely pumping in that damage with the Rabbit Panda going off the Ashe, just trying to find the value halfway to the Death Blossom. But the Transcendence gonna be keeping the team alive up for just a moment. Marauders with this Riptide are going to be a lot of burst damage that you can't heal through a Transcendence. And the pin onto Zenyatta, it is looking so good for Marauders, and they're going to hold it here before that 3rd point checkmark.
Now, look, they almost had it, but they didn't quite have it. And a big part, again, Jordy dies in that fight in a place that they really didn't have to. They had a shatter ready. They could just close out that fight. They just focus on staying alive, helping their team kill something else, but don't feel like you have to be the fragger. And Jordy is making, so like there's 2 parts to the mistakes that Jordy's making right now. The first one is usually timing. They initiate a bit too early where the team isn't quite ready to help them out, help them with a shatter. A good example was when they came into 3rd there. Jordy went for that flank shatter, and the Transcendence was out from BT bench. And then you think, okay, so the Transcendence is out. That means the Reinhardt should be able to live through pretty much anything unless they anti-date him. Didn't have an Ana, so that couldn't happen. But Jordy goes in a little bit too early, meaning the Transcendence cannot reach them. So because Jordy's too early, they use a Transcendence for basically no reason. Jordy dies, and they lose the subsequent fight. And that's like the first part, which is timing. And the other one, it just feels like Jordy doesn't have the, like you call it like I had a word for this, like the breach damage, right? It's like you have a breaking point in your health where you're like, I really got to put up my shield now. And Jordy consistently goes over that threshold, so consistently underestimates how much damage the enemy can do or overestimates how much health they have. So if Jordy can work on either of those problems, you're going to see the effectiveness increase so much. So I really hope that it can see that.
Yeah, as we look for the change up in the performance from the tank line, it's going to be the swap of sides. Marauders now on the attack here. And a big appreciation on the I am Lano, but it's not going to be too punishable. Will be punished. Ed Powell on that Reaper, perhaps trying to chase that Junkrat down, or the Junkrat just getting in that spam a little bit early, getting that early damage in as well. And right now, it looks like Marauders being a little bit cautious. They're not looking to get too heavy into the fight. We see Unit Saber here swinging the hammer, but really to not a lot of effect other than just dissuade the opposing team from pushing up. But they're stalling out the cart. This is going to be pretty comfortable. Again, another pin coming in, but these Reinhardts are getting so pin happy, and it's Jordy Gord, again, getting punished by Unit Saber for that aggression. Just could not hold on to it for a moment longer. Marauders now, man advantage, takes down Archangel, takes down Names too. And with this, you gotta think the cleanup's gonna be here for Marauders, absolutely routing the last EC members.
Yeah, you can see how much health the DPS have, sorry, the healers have already they have to recover because of all of them basically having their ultimates after one fight. Not so much for the DPS at Powell switch over to the Junkrat because they just want to have that duel with Glizzy, and I feel like that's a fair duel to take. It wasn't be another contest though.
Yeah, the other contest is coming in, and Powell takes them down early, but it looks like nobody was on cart. Either way, it doesn't seem like it matters too much as the kills coming in thick and heavy for the side of Marauders.
Marauders so far doing a very good job on this attack, and it's once again that over-aggression from Jordy that's really being punished. And you can see why. Like, it's a complete mirror match, almost. Like, the tank line is very similar, it means double barrier. It's all about that support lineup. The Moira Lucio doing consistent AoE healing, and then 2 single-target healers on the other side. The sustain is going to be higher on the side of Marauders, and 50 Shades feel like they need to burst through in order to win those fights. They don't have to be as aggressive as they are. Jordy can hold on and just wait for the Nano to go aggressive, and that's not what they're doing.
Ooh, and Ed Powell from
nice
the
dunk.
top. Yeah, he gets dunked on by Pastic Glizzy, who's now up on this roof with that Rip Tire. Looking like they're going to be backing off. The Earth Shatter and Graviton going to be coming out, but it's responded to by TNA with that Sow Barrier, the High Noon, Gravitic Flux. A lot of ults being invested, but it's going to work in favor of the attackers.
I just don't understand it. You see 2 barriers in front of you. There's already a Grav. There's no need to use that Shatter. Just swing into them if you want to kill them. But it just that over-investment, the over-aggression from Jordy is really, really, really coming down on 50 Shades right now. And it's not even, I don't even think that Marauders need to be aware of the aggression. I don't think they are actually, but they just can capitalize on the mistake. They're not even trying to really kill Jordy. They're not even focusing Jordy. Jordy is just having them focus them by charging in.
Well, as we look forward, we'll see if the defensive team of 50 Shades can manage to hold it down. A lot of damage coming through onto the side of 50 Shades, and Jordy going into the back looking for a pin, but that leaves their entire front line at vulnerability, and they're absolutely going to suffer. Marauders punch through.
Yeah, if you had the shatter, I would have maybe understood. You go for flank shatter or something, but there's nothing there. I don't think there was a reason to go there. Now we have Archangel go over to this Tracer, which is going to be very hard to get through all this sustain, this pressure. So let's see if they can get the value out of that one. Right now, it's just going to be a brawl on the cart halfway through the third point.
Yeah, and Ed Powell does have that tire. They're going to be using it right next to that Sigma. So close to getting fragged out. But the Transcendence is going to come out, and a big shatter coming in from Jordy, but again, it doesn't seem like the follow-up is there. Jordy even pins deep, does manage to take down Nick. The Coalescence forced out from Silent Scream because of it, but finally 50 Shades able to collapse with their frontline tank. And now it looks like this might have been the best fight 50 Shades has had on defense.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they still were able to force out both those support ultimates, right? Both the Transcendence and the Nano, because Jordy was taking so much damage. But we now will see a Riptire being ready. If past that Glizzy can get a good Riptire out, this fight's still very winnable. But if a Rabid Panda just keeps being on this high ground and winning out all these duels, it's going to be very hard to get anything done. The tire is out though.
Yeah, past the Glizzy, you're going to be using that tire. The response from TNA to drop the sound barrier in kind. The Junkrat is going to be dead when they wake up from that tire. So it's going to be a 1-for-1 trade essentially after 10 seconds of tire find. Marauders able to just push up towards that defensive spawn. Push in and absolutely take Route 66 here in a pretty dominant fashion, I'd say.
Yeah, and both teams kind of kept playing the same way, no matter on which side they were, where you have Marauders sort of playing reactively, and 50 Shades playing very aggressively, and you kind of see where this style gets you. Right now, 50 Shades is winning 1 in 6 fights, which means that Marauders is winning the other 6, and that just ultimately leads to a victory for Marauders. And the way they're winning fights on the side of 50 Shades is very sloppy. It's either this very clutch tire that comes out, or something like that, or this final time when all the resources pouring into Jordy sort of come together, and then they do both support ultimates and a shatter, and maybe even a graviton or whatever, the Sigma ultimate or something like that. And that's the only fights they win. So they win fights when they completely support Jordy, and they kind of almost over-invest on that. And if that's the way they're going to win fights, I don't think they're going to be winning this game. I'm happy to be surprised though.
Yeah, this is actually quite interesting to me. When we started Route 66, I was focusing a lot on Rabid Panda. It seems like their positioning was just really good, really aware, and 50 Shades did not seem able to deal with that. But as that game kind of went on, it shows like, oh, 50 Shades isn't able to deal with that because they're just having to basically hard focus on what Jordy is doing. And if Jordy's not making the move, they can't either.
No, exactly. And that's a strat you can run with, right? If you have a Reinhardt, like, we call it the bumper Reinhardt, that just keeps going, keeps swinging, the rest of the team keeps them up. But it's not working right now. Jordy is not able to connect, is not able to get the shatters off very often into the shields that were just already there. Very often over swinging, so like going past that health breaking point. And that's just like, we call that like very sloppy Reinhardt play. Like bumper Reinhardt play goes to the edge, but almost never over it. And Jordy kind of did go over it a little bit there. So, if they can fix that, then it's a very different story. If Jordy is the one that's able to dictate that pace and able to help the initiation without necessarily always just charging in head first all the time, then it's just all of a sudden a very different team. And it's not just up to Jordy. You can't just say, oh, Jordy's playing terribly. Like, you also see some nano boosts, some transcendences come out from Names Too Hard For You and BT Bench, where you're like, was that really the right moment to use it? Was it too early? Was it too late? Did you layer it a bit too much? So it's all of these factors together. And you said it, Rabbit Panda, great job on the Ashe, wasn't really shut down by their counter hit scan a lot of the time. So there's more going on than just saying Jordy is not playing well. And they do sub Jordy out here. They are going with a sub in the Bird Brodery, which is, probably different tank player. So maybe that solves other issues. Maybe all of a sudden this will be a completely different team And all I've just said is going to come together where the timing, the initiation, the shielding, the not going past your health break point will just fall into place. 50 Shades turns it all around. I certainly hope so. I would hate for the first game to just be over before we even start it. But, you know, they still have a lot to prove. They're the team that has to come back into this.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we're seeing the Bird Roderi come in here, that tells me that 50 Shades acknowledges either one of two things. That Jordy's just not operating as effectively as they want him to. If you're having a bad day, if you're just not up to chalk, that's fine. Or the alternative, Bird is set for a hero that we are perhaps going to see not be as confident in Jordy. So they're looking for a different main tank, perhaps, a Winston and Ori. I don't think that's going to be the case for King's Row. So I just think that they do have that wherewithal, that self-awareness to bring in, a replacement part for something that may be looking a little rusty. However, as we do move into King's Row, we have a few seconds before these rosters are about to drop, and we get to see exactly what we're working with here, Classy. Now, as we look ahead, we are going to be seeing online. It does look like both teams, at least at the start, locking out that Ryan Zarya. And the attackers, at least initially, leaning on that double sniper here. I'm going to be very curious to see if that comes through in heavy moving forward.
Check this out.
Similarly, on the defense, as we can speak a little bit more confidently about that, a Rabid Panda and Ed Powell, that Ashe Mei combination coming out. I like the Mei, I like the Ashe. Putting them together might be a decent choice, especially if that Ashe is able to build up that ult charge rather quickly with the dynamite, section off any members that get caught out, prevent that healing from coming through. 50 Shades going to be starting off on that Widow again, just trying to get that early pick past the Kizzy. Going to be switching on to the Sombra here. Very curious choice. The main wall does come in rather effectively from Marauders, and with that, they're going to section off the tank line, immediately take those kills down. Nick burns down Archangel on the chase, and with that, first point rather well held by Marauders. As we look ahead, though, we're going to be noticing that they didn't have the opportunity to build up a lot of ult charge. It was a rather quick and clean fight. Those tanks not able to receive any healing, and that's Sombra on the backline. This is causing a little bit of a headache, but Marauders, again, not allowing them to get the better of. As we move forward, the Hanzo going up and over, actually going to be putting those arrows into Unit Saber, but the Hanzo now in the unenviable position of being sectioned off by that Mei wall. Archangel perhaps overstepping their boundaries just a bit, and without that Hanzo now, you think the shield break has to be there for the defense, but it's not, as Unit Saber apparently going to be the one to get taken down. Ed Powell gets hacked up, no walls, no ice form, but still going to be able to freeze and get those icicles thrown into the opponents. And with this, 50 Shades looks like they have the opportunity to equalize here, but they're just going to be backing off. They were not able to pull it out in kind. As we get moving, both teams going to be having this coalescence up and online, ready to go. Archangel does get blocked off, but being that Hanzo just climbed up and over, ready to push up into the fight, irregardless of the Mei, who does have to back off here. The later coalescence coming in from Silent Scream, trying to keep Ed Powell alive, but not going to be successful. Bob going deep into the backline. A Rabid Panda doesn't seem to find the angle they're quite looking for. The Earthshatter does tend to come in, but the Bird Roderi, again, getting the Shatter off, going for a pin, not able to find the capitalization on it. You hate to see it, and because of that, the Marauders are actually able to stabilize off the back kill of that main tank.
Finally, they're able to stabilize it once again. It's a bit of a longer fight, and that's kind of what they like. They like to play with that sustain. They like to play with those supports that bring them that sustain. They can still bring the aggression when needed with that Moira Lucio combo, with the speed boost, disengage and engage, and they're doing it so seamlessly.
They really are here as this fight gets going. The Blizzard right at the choke, but it's a little too late. Most of 50 Shades able to push through. The EMP coming in now. Layered on top, it's going to be the sound barrier. TNA not able to get caught out. The Earthshatter just going to be landing onto the Zarya. This might be once again the defense managing to pull back a fight that was not looking favorable for him. It's just going to be the coalescence from Names 2 trying to get that damage in, trying to get that healing and keep their team up. Archangel Slap, though, able to creep right onto that point, doesn't get dislodged until a Rabid Panda turns the corner and puts a couple shots in from their rifle. And Marauders still not out of this fight yet. This team is scrappy. They're going to look to keep fighting here, but they get pushed back, and all of a sudden they have to move through the shield of the Bird Bro Dairy, who now taking the route through the hotel. Not a lot of point focus coming in from 50 Shades right out of the gate, and with that, Marauders throwing in Bob, trying to keep him just a little bit more stall. They really want to retake this point. They don't want to lose it. They're investing these ultimates they feel are so crucial, and it makes sense. A lot of members hemorrhaging that health from 50 Shades. However, it's looking like the backup is going to eventually come in from Marauders. They're going to concede the point.
Oh, they're going to try. That the Coalescence.
Coalescence comes the pin onto BT Bench, and suddenly things have turned around for this defensive team. The backup was necessary. They were able to regroup and allow themselves that opportunity to recollect, and with that, they've managed to hold.
97.1%. That's gotta hurt if you don't cap that full point. They've got one more shot. They have some ultimates in the bank, and of course, they just forced out quite a bit from the defense. That's chatter from Unit Saber, though. It's very close. If that hits, it might just already be over.
Yeah, we see Bird go in for the Earth Shatter, tries to land it, but the bubble gets broken on Ed Powell before the pin actually lands. Archangel Slap able to get a kill off the back end with that Death Blossom, but the Earth Shatter now comes in response, call and response from Unit Saber, and with that the defense holds point, no more progress built up, and it looks like 50 Shades, the writing's on the walls for them.
They had to go hot and heavy in that last fight, and that they did. It was so close, but it's that, you know, it's that calm, it's that constitution, that making sure that your team stays together and is able to sustain through a fight and keep killing targets on an objective like that. And you did see that sometimes supports were just focusing on the wrong target, not necessarily the wrong target, but that their team was so spread out that they couldn't really focus on anyone at the same time. And that's where that AoE healing that Lucio and Moira bring, you know, is so good at, when you sort of stick together, follow around the point, follow the same targets. And at some point, the Bird Rotary was going into hotel, got 2 kills, goes back, but they weren't actually with their team. They had lost some health, and Names Too Hard for You and BT Bench were too far away. So the Rotary stands in that choke. It's like, okay, you know, they can come, I can swing a little bit, but they couldn't swing because there was no healing, and they got taken out. And then afterwards, the rest of the team comes in, and when there's no Reinhardt to stop you at that choke, at that archway, it's going to be so much harder to just walk in, because you can walk in with a shield and spam at them, where they have to sort of cower and try and shoot back, but won't let as many shots.
Yeah, it's certainly a tough position, but now 50 Shades gonna have to turn that tough position a little bit more favorably, as we are looking for them to go on to the attack here moving forward.
Yeah, I want to see that front and back line connect 100%, and now we're going to see if they can get that going on the defense. Of course, now they'll be pushed out of position, but Ed Powell lands the headshot. That might just be end all is all.
Yeah, it's going to be very tough past the Glizzy. Already taken out that massive burst damage, not going to be in effect, and the attacking team is absolutely going to get carried away here, knowing that their shield can last just a little bit longer. A Rabbit Panda on this Ash just feels a little bit unnecessary. The punch comes in heavy, and past the Glizzy has the opportunity to come in, but they're playing at this choke.
Yeah, they just gave up. It was like, you know what? It's fine. It's over. Let's not even bother. They will have the Bird Rotary come back in here on this Wrecking Ball, but that's not going to be long for this world, and this fight, this point, this map, and indeed this series goes to the Marauders in very convincing fashion. That first map looked closer, but that was just a dominant showing afterwards.
Yeah, and, you know, I gotta say, I'm a little bit disappointed here, Classy. We saw the Bird Roderi come in for Jordy. I was hoping that it was just a mental thing with Jordy, where, you know, they're getting a bit too aggressive. But I feel like we saw that same thing a couple of times coming in from the Bird Roderi, and it looks like it cost them, right? Because they lose that Reinhardt really early on in the attack phase.
Yeah, and then the question is it because the Reinhardts are playing too aggressive? Is it because the supports are not ready for that? Is it a timing issue, a communication issue? Whatever issue it is, there seems to be this disconnection between what the front line, especially the main tank, is doing and what the rest of the team is able to do to follow up or to, you know, go with that, to go with that flow. So what you're going to have to look at in that case for them, if I have to give them advice, look at where your chain of command in the shot calling is. So who is saying where you're going to fight, who's calling targets, who is calling the rotations. and all of that stuff. Because at some point, someone's going to have to scream, "Ignore whatever there is going on there. We're focusing on this." Because if you can win that part of the fight and that other part is still there, you're going to end up in numbers advantage, positional advantage, regen advantage. And that's just something that 50 Shades was never able to do. They were never able to connect together as a 6 and just keep pushing through that same corner.
Yeah, and honestly, I am hopeful for 50 Shades. Like we mentioned at the kind of the beginning of this cast, we did not have a whole lot of information on any of these teams.
No.
So I'm hoping that this is just a one-off, because despite never having seen 50 Shades before, this did feel a little out of character. This felt like they knew that this was wrong, or that they knew something was off. So I'm hoping that they're able to resolve it. This is just a one-time fluke, because if not, I can see them continually getting trounced like this.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if teams look back at a VOD like this, of course they now can, because there's actually, been a stream, so they can look back and see like, okay, this is what they played, this is how they played it, this is how Marauders was able to take advantage of it. And then, 50 Shades is only going to be in more trouble down the line if teams actually do that background research for the stream. But of course, this was that game. We saw it happen. I hope indeed that they can learn from this and they can come back stronger next time against their other opponents. But for now, they have to take the loss. They have to take it in stride. And the Marauders, they can be pretty happy, because they very much acknowledge that they were the better team in certain areas. They gave a Rapid Panda the space. They waited for the main tank of 50 Shades, whoever it may be, to make some sort of move they could capitalize on. And in the end, it was just more solid team play and more capitalization on mistakes, rather than them making actually a lot of initiative plays for themselves, because they were relatively passive, other than Rapid Panda, who can just do damage from anywhere, apparently.
Yeah, Rapid Panda was looking good. I'm a big fan for that player from the Marauders squad. So I definitely think that's a player we might be interested in looking at again.
Yeah.
However, that is going to wrap it up rather quickly here for 50 Shades versus Midnight Marauders. However, we're going to be taking a little break. We will be back with our next game, PS4. Once again, it's going to be Trash Ascending versus Mystic Defenders. So hang in there tight, folks. We will be right back with that game.